Man, a question that I might already know the answer to from Pedrone regarding the transformer, since the transformer ends up being a fundamental component in the amplifier.
The output one, right? Yeah, necessary.
So how much does it contribute to shaping the tone, right? Are there different sound characteristics for each transformer? Is there any variation?
Man, a transformer is a passive element. It is a passive component. It takes from one side and delivers to the other. It just matches the impedances. On the tube side, it's low current and high voltage. And on the speaker side, it's low voltage and high current. That's why it's there to make the exchange. And it is a passive element. So the maximum. The best transformer in the world, and this transformer doesn't exist, is the one that delivers exactly what it received. Of all sizes at all frequencies. But this transformer doesn't exist because they are made of physical materials. Wire, the core, the way it's wound. So, the best transformer is the one that steals little. So, the transformer steals. It will steal a little from you. 5%, 10%, it will steal treble, it will steal bass. The best one is the one that steals. As agreed. What it will steal from you, you are willing to discard within the price. And the weight it will have. So, the transformer does not add beat sound. What it can do is steal less than what was there before. Sometimes you have an amplifier where the transformer is of low quality, with poorly made winding, low quality core, and if you put in a better transformer, it will perform better. But the sound was already there. The ones doing the work, the active elements, are the valves. The active element of the whole process is the valves. The transformer just takes and delivers on this side. So the work was already done. If you change the transformer and the sound improved, it's because your new transformer is better than the one you had.
I understand. And is there any national transformer that you think?
The one I use and I also helped develop in the beginning was from Smithers Audio. We have a long-standing partnership. They manufacture their models, and I also make models to my specifications with them. And those are the ones I trust. Every Pedrone amplifier has Smithers transformers.
But have you ever used imported amplifiers?
Yes, of course.
In the beginning?
Imported transformers or amplifiers?
No, transformers. But in the beginning, when you started manufacturing, how did you do it?
Man, I started, there was nothing to sell. I wound several transformers. Wow! I wound them. And then...
A lot of work.
A lot of work, no. And it requires tools. It requires a specialized workbench. Many supplies, because the wire can be thin, the wire can be thick. A hassle. I did it because I needed to. But as soon as I found someone reliable, but were yours any good? Better than I meant, yes, because so much so that the project I passed on to Meters was the one I developed, but they wind much better than I would.
Is this winding business? Is it like multi-layered? How is it? Yes, you.
That's right, you. Make winding sessions. The valve side we call the primary, and the speaker side is the secondary. The primary is the one that receives the energy. The secondary is the one that delivers it. The windings are interwoven and divided into layers, precisely so the energy from one side meets the winding on the other side.
Do you have a photo of this to show?
Yes, of course. A power transformer. For example, an energy transformer that takes energy from the grid doesn't need interleaving because the frequency is so low that you can do the entire primary winding after the secondary, and it's fine. The interleaving is so the high frequencies don't get lost. When it's bass, it's fine. The bass is so large, the flux is so intense, that what is below reaches the top, and it's okay. But an audio transformer needs to have treble. It's not just the 60 hertz from the grid. That's where the interleaving comes in.
What consumes more current in a transformer is the bass part. I say this because like playing with a Mesa Boogie with 4x12, when you palm mute, you can even feel, no, the bass always, you feel the bottom trembling.
The bass always demands energy. That's why bass amplifiers are much more powerful. With 30 watts of guitar, you make a lot of noise.
You do
30 watts for bass, you do nothing.
nothing. And it's interesting that you mentioned the power you're developing and everything, which brings us to talk a bit about Class D. Since most bass amplifiers are Class D, right?
Nowadays they are, because of the power.
Yeah, so there's this power issue. They have very high power. How do you see, for example, Pedro makes amplifiers. He makes tube amps. Do you make any transistor ones?
I have slim models where the preamp is tube and the power is Class D. The power is Class D. It's a hybrid. It's a hybrid. It's a valve state of the 2020s.
Interesting. And by the way, congratulations.
Have you heard it? Is it cool?
Do you like it? And the new one there, oh, when are you launching it?
The Slim Jubilee, it's coming soon. Soon, I have the Slim Clean, which is the clean model. I have the Slim Pegasus, which is Marshall tone, Plexi, JCM, and everyone asked for the Jubilee, which is another. Everyone associates Marshall with Plexi, JCM 800, JCM 900, and which is the old one and all. And there's the Jubilee, which is somewhat forgotten, but man, it's tone.
Which one it is?
I will conclude that everyone who likes Marshall tone, who thinks they're hearing the 800, is actually hearing the Jubilee.
It's interesting because when I was talking to Marcos about this, he said, man, there's a lot of stuff from Marshall that's very hard to, when you go back to the historical part, it's very hard to characterize. For example, we have the 59 amplifier, but their first amplifier was released in 62. So like, oh, the year they put doesn't match the release year and all that. And what most people hear, for example, as the JCM 800 is not the JCM 800. There's that too. There's that Oito. And if it is, it's with a boost before a lot of things. For example, we talk a lot about the Plexi, but the Plexi wasn't a Marshall model. It was an era of Marshall amplifiers that were released at that time, which is what we know as Plexi. So there's a bunch of craziness. So I agree with you that for sure what people hear, the JCM 800 here, man, top, but it's possibly a Jubilee.
Cool. There's something I was going to bring up that you'll agree with. Why does a bass amplifier have 800W, for example? Because also the sensitivity of bass speakers to withstand the power is much lower. A guitar speaker has high efficiency. You deliver 1 watt, it generates 1 dB. A speaker, a V30, again, let's talk about the V30. Let's think that we are sponsored by Selection and Mesa. If you take a speaker with 97 dB sensitivity, you've already lost 50% of the power.
This podcast could be sponsored by Selection.
Selection, Mesa Boogie, Selection. Sponsor us, pay us.
The scale is exponential. With 3 dBs, you either double or lose the power. Now going back, let's talk about the bass speaker. A bass speaker, normally you will check its sensitivity exactly to handle the bass, to handle the power. Its sensitivity is a bit lower. So it's normal to find speakers with 95, 94, 96 dB. So just from that, you can already see that you need much more power to match a guitar cabinet. I understand that's why we have this discrepancy. You say, wow, but your bass amplifier is 800 watts. I'm here with my 2R12 with 50 watts. We're rehearsing here and it's going well. You'll see the volume. And you see that the bass volume isn't like, wow, if it's 800 watts, it should be deafening. It's bringing down the building. Yeah, so it's not because you have a power of, I don't know, let's say 800 watts RMS, that by connecting this power to a cabinet, you'll get 800 watts RMS. I understand a big idea about the speakers too.
At HOTS, do you also make cabinets for bass?
For bass, we have the complete line. It starts from 2i8, 2i10, 410, in 2 of 8, 2 of 10, 4 of 10, 1 of 10, of 15, 2 of 12.
And is there a big difference in the design, for example, between a bass cabinet and a guitar cabinet?
It's completely different because when you're building a bass cabinet, we take with guitars, it should be the same, right? We often start from this principle, but we have the speaker's parameters. So we take the pulsmal data of the speaker and design based on that to achieve better performance. So the cabinet must have an appropriate size. It will have a tuning port. So the design is different. Then there will be a driver, and we will have to make a crossover. At the back, there must be an LPD where you can open or close the S drive to give the client an option. So it's a completely different project.
But the principles you use in this part of resonance vibration are all applied to the bass part as well, right?
Yes, a bass cabinet is the real test of a product because the more it vibrates, the more you lose. So the bracing process is brutal inside one. There are several cross braces inside the cabinet also for you to have it.
Which in the visit doesn't need so much bracing.
And it depends on the size of the cabinet and the power it will be applied to. You don't need to put so much. I see now a 12-inch frame, we brace in the same proportion. Interesting.
What determines the sensitivity of the speaker in its construction? Is it the coil?
It's the, well, I'm not an expert in speakers, but it's the proximity that the coil passes in the gap.
Okay, and when I understand, finish the explanation.
No, that's it. The closer it can pass, the magnetic flux can get close to the greater the sensitivity of the gap, yes. The greater the sensitivity. The greater the sensitivity. So you can see it's amazing. A speaker like the Celeste that has high sensitivity, with anything you can make this coil scrape in the duct. If you pull with your hand like this, the cone to the side, and you flex it, you can already see that the coil, I understand.
But then the efficiency is higher.
Efficiency. The closer, the more efficient.
And when a speaker burns out, regardless of an output short, an amp or something, why can a speaker burn out?
Excess power, usually.
But the winding heats up and melts the varnish, and it shorts out. Is that it?
Yes, the speaker can burn out. If it becomes misaligned over time, the E coil starts to scrape in the gap, and then it burns out. It can have excess power.
The coil can open. But just casually, what should you look for in a speaker, whether domestic or imported? Good construction materials to prevent it from burning out casually, like, oh, I'm playing, and suddenly my speaker stopped. So the sensitivity also alters the speaker's response.
Sensitivity is important. When a person goes to buy a speaker, to choose a speaker, they will first choose based on the tone. They will listen and say, this is the sound. That pleases me. The second thing they need to see is how efficient this speaker will be for them. Because especially if they have a low-powered amp, if they have, I don't know, a Joyo with 15 watts, if they have a low-efficiency speaker, they won't have enough volume to play with a band. If they put in an efficient speaker, maybe you can manage with just 15 watts. Can you get the 15 watts out of it, right? Yes, because
you can hear let's simplify, hear the 15 watts.
That's the transduction part of the...
It's like the thing about stealing, right? The transformer that steals, the speaker that steals. It will steal part of the volume.
But the speaker has this efficiency number, which is the sensitivity. I have the Unico there from Celestion. Celestion could sponsor the Alnico Blue.
And BGT2 sponsor as well.
The Alnico Blue from Celestion. Man, I think it's 170. It's absurd to say.
I think that the Sosego, he said that he had a frame with 110 dB SAS of guitar sensitivity.
That means you apply 1 watt. Sensitivity means you apply 1 watt, listening at 1 meter. It will deliver 100 and something dB.
So if it's 110, you can put more than 3 times the power efficiency.
So a 10 watt amplifier in a 100 dB speaker is the same as a 100 watt one in a 97 dB speaker, right? A 97 dB speaker and a 100 watt amplifier sound the same as a 10 watt amplifier in a 110 dB speaker.
Wow. Ideas 1 to 10 drink, review 8, 10 drink. Wow.
It's something that people don't pay much attention to, you know?
I think people really have no idea about this information.
But the sensitivity, as you asked, is the size of the gap, which is the distance between the magnetic flux and the coil, the power of the magnet, which is the speaker's motor, a very good, very strong magnet, increases the sensitivity. And the weight of the materials, because the weight of the coil, the weight of the cone works against the sensitivity. It has to be light.
It doesn't let it vibrate there because it's heavy.
Why is the bass speaker also less efficient? Because the cone is so stiff, the cone is so large, that it's heavy.
Because also if it's soft, it explodes, right?
And when it goes to push the air, if the cone is too soft, it deforms, it doesn't push, it comes, it stays. Air has weight, right? It has this existence. So that's what sensitivity is. The weight of the materials, the power of the magnetic assembly, and the small distance of the gap.